everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Vancouver Real. I am your host today, Mike Zaremba, and actually joining me, I have a co-host, my brother, as a surprise, Andy.
Hello, everybody. Mike just told me today at about 3:30 that we had a podcast. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'm psyched.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was tomorrow. I'm like, and so I'm getting these images from you, and I'm like, oh, we're good for tomorrow. I'm gonna be all prepared, and I'm like, so where is it tonight? I'm like, oh my God, okay. But anyways, we're making it happen, and really happy to. Yeah,
definitely excited for this one.
As per usual, we are podcasting here in Float House at 70 West Codover Street. Floathouse.ca is our website. So if you haven't heard of flotation therapy, or I got my camera, it's all good, or checked it out, check out floathouse.ca, or you can go to YouTube after this video, of course, and do a search for what is floating, and that really breaks it down in a clear, concise video. And if you want to give it a shot, use the promo code VancouverReal, all one word, and you'll save 20% off a single float. And I'll hold the camera while I take it back over to Andy, because he's got a few announcements for the community.
Yeah, as usual, we have a couple meetups coming up, and we have the deep dive immersion with Casper. He's the author of a book called Mind Lift. It's going to be this weekend, actually. The event is sold out, but Casper is one of Wim Hof's teachers. And they're going to be going and doing the cold water immersion and breath work, and they're going to be hiking through the mountains, and it's going to be a full weekend immersion, so that's going to be pretty cool. And he's also doing a 2-hour workshop for the Vancouver Real community.
That one's free, right?
That's going to be free. So if you want to link up to these community events, we have them every single month, and they range from, we've done things like building a website to movement workshops to what else have we done? We've done nutrition workshops. And it's just a great way to get out and see us in person and meet people in the community. And the events are always free, and we move them around all the time. And if you want to link up with that, go to the Vancouver Real community page, and you can just click, and we'll most likely accept you.
Most likely. Pretty
much, yeah, guaranteed. And then you'll be on the community when you'll get notices for future events.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I think that's all the announcements we have for today. So let's dive into today's episode. I'm really excited to have Christina Gooding joining us. And I'm a friend of your husband's. We're in the same men's group. And he kind of messaged me. Actually, I saw the campaign of this documentary you're doing before he asked if we could make this happen. Mm-hmm. And, so I was already on board, a supporter, but I'm really happy that we can help you today. But first of all, welcome to Vancouver Real.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Yeah, it's our pleasure. So Christina, you are the producer of this documentary film called The Path of the Shaman. And this is something that is a passion project for you. And it's a really cool, it's a campaign, really. And you're trying to raise funding and awareness for this really cool documentary you're producing. So can you just kind of tell us, your elevator pitch of this documentary and what it's all about, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me on today. Really appreciate it. I really love your show, and I love what you guys are doing, and I think it's a testament to what I think we're trying to do with the film, which is building media and bringing awareness to issues that we're kind of stuck out of in our normal media. And so it gives us an opportunity to talk about issues that are often put kind of under the rug, or that are even hard to talk about, period. Mm-hmm. And so we're under the framework and the story around ayahuasca, the journey of this coming out of the Amazon and into North America, and particularly around a ayahuasquero, vegetalista, or some shaman. There's lots of words. Mm-hmm. And Dave. And so we follow him and his ceremonial work, as well as the community that's built around him and his work with Gabor Mate.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. So the campaign, we're kind of mid-campaign right now. You're midway through. And just tell us a little bit about the campaign, how it's been doing, where you're at with it, and how much longer we got left.
So we have 15 days left. So we're on the tail end, but we're doing well. We're at 48%, which is super exciting. We have 126 backers, and we've raised $23,993.
Awesome.
Nice.
So really grateful for all the support that's come through so far, and we're just excited to keep spreading the message.
Cool.
I personally was excited to use Indiegogo as a platform, not only to obviously get funding for the film, but it opens up the topics and allows to join a community about the conversation of the film.
Totally.
And so even since we've started, getting emails and having conversations with people about the topics of the film have been really powerful in what I feel like this film is all about. And so there are a few stories in particular that we follow, and the women are struggling with sexual abuse, with addiction, with depression, and these are topics that are hard to talk about. And so it's cool to be able to use this as a tool to bring light and to show women who have really gotten through to the other side, not through the typical pharmaceutical path.
Right.
And I think that's one that we feel very passionately about. Actually, Todd's last film was about, it's called Letters from Generation RX, and it was about the deep, dark side of pharmaceuticals and how they're being used to suppress instead of actually deal with the issues that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a revolutionary time, I think, for mental health and psychiatric medicine and all that kind of stuff right now. It's, these other modalities, these other holistic approaches and plant medicines now and shamanism work and are kind of really diving deep into this. Obviously, the work of MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, is a huge organization, probably the leading organization, carrying this flag of just reforming how we approach mental health issues. And it's, so it's really important. It's been a huge topic among our podcast. We have a lot of episodes relating inwards and outwards of this topic. That's partially why we wanted to have you on and support you as well. And, it was surprising. I know during the video for the Indiegogo campaign, you had mentioned that you went to other media sources to try to, pitch this idea to them and didn't have the best of luck. Can you kind of talk to us about that process that you went through as the producer?
Yeah, it was, I came on board last year, and Todd's been working on the project for almost 3 years now. So it was already 2 years in, and basically there were a lot of walls and there's a lot of judgments around the topic, period. And so it's like, it's too taboo. It's, people aren't quite interested that on a larger scale, when I don't believe that. And I think that it's really about the story of human resilience and of hope and of faith and of healing. And I think people want to hear that kind of story. And so I think that wasn't really coming through. And, sometimes, when it's a big network, they just want, it's not CNN and it's not Trump and it's not the stories that are, majorly selling. And so I think that's where I kind of went, okay, well, how do we do this in a different way?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's cool. I mean, because you never know, like these bigger corporations that have funding for commercials and stuff, like, they're bound by their investors and like whoever's and their agendas and what they're trying to push. And, this is kind of what MAPS is doing in terms of a nonprofit organization, literally going to the public to raise money to do research, because there is no money in this sort of pharmacological approach and these, using entheogens and spirit plant medicines. The money's just not there. So it's all like publicly generated. And, unfortunately, I'm not surprised even, corporations like Crown corporations like CBC wouldn't be at least more open to it, since they've already done a pseudo documentary with.
Well, interestingly, and I won't say that maybe someone won't want to pick us up after this, but
True.
I will leave that open. But
Cool.
I think that CBC specifically said that they'd already done the topic because they'd done Jungle Prescription.
Right.
And my argument was that this is a very different approach, and it does include Gabor, and it includes the evolution of since that time, which has been huge. I mean, his work has changed immeasurably, and the work that he does with Dave is a completely different story.
Totally.
And so, but that's that was the beginning, and I think we're just charging forward. And I think with any documentary, it's always a long path, and finding the right supporters and places is just it's a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Can you kind of take us into Dave? I mean, it's kind of funny. You're calling him a vegetalista, right, and this ayahuasquero, curandero.
Yeah.
Dave.
Right, and
so
that's kind of the joke.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? So, because obviously it's called The Path of the Shaman, and I know there's other characters in this documentary highlighting their path to healing, and I'm sure Dave's a part of that healing path. But like, can you kind of talk to us a little bit about Dave, and what you can share in terms of his process and his feature in this documentary.
Absolutely. And so his name can also be said as Ronan Nye. That's his shaman name. We use Dave for one because that is his, Western name, but I think that's kind of something that we're going to look at in the film is this him in two worlds. Him in his world as a father, as a friend, as a husband, and then also as a shaman to his community. And so I when I first met Dave, it was, he kind of jokes, and there's a good story about this because it was actually at a retreat with Gabor, and so they were in a circle, and as you know, at retreats there's the integration circles, and so they've gone through their ceremony, and and this is actually pre-ceremony. That's how Gabor does it, and so everyone's just getting to know each other, and there's been like some really deep sharing, and the woman is like, so I'm really looking forward to meeting the shaman, and Dave's like, that's me.
That's so funny.
So, that people, he could pass as, the surfer dude or the family guy in a suburban world. And, that is something that, is sort of his, it's a balance. And,
Totally.
and so, there's that. And then there's the fact that he's been studying deeply and practicing this for 16 years, and the isolation and the diets and the sacrifice he's really had to make for his family and his community, and there is a huge sacrifice on that side, and deep work that he has made a huge commitment to, that then allows him to do the work that he does.
Yeah.
And there's actually a quote that Tanya said on your podcast that I really loved, and it was, in the Shipibo system of healing, the shamans are highly trained physicians. They're doctors that have spent years and years learning how to practice medicine in a way that's totally different from the way we practice medicine. And I feel like that's, it's maybe not as highly regarded as a medical doctor, but 16 years committed to this work in the way that he has is something that is really remarkable, and it really shows in the work that he's able to do, and I respect him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that comment, that idea becomes a lot more prevalent when you have actually had the experience of drinking ayahuasca, and then tapping into ayahuasca shamanism and shamanism in general, and what this whole cosmology, like once you start tipping your toes in it and actually diving into this whole world a little bit deeper, it's incredibly deep and vast and expansive, and really is hard to put a framework over. Like, it's really challenging, and I think maybe that's not even what you should be doing, is not even putting a framework over it and trying to box it in and define it, because it is a really completely different paradigm of looking at reality, of dealing with disease and healing and relationship to to everything, to all my relations, as First Nations people will say. And so it's like it's a completely different point of view, and it takes really intensive work to do it, and that's why I'm excited that hopefully one day we can have Dave on the show and get it from him in person, because you're right, these people that decide to go down this path and are very integral and healing oriented versus say sorcery or black magic, they're here for that healing process. It's a very noble path, in my opinion, anyways.
I agree, and I like the word that you use, because that's integrity is a huge part of it, and there's and a huge amount of trust that goes into sitting with a shaman, period. And is something that we'll explore in the film, is the world of the kind of the crazy world of neo-shamanism, and there being like the New Yorker article says, there's people who are yoga teachers that are claiming they're shamans, and they're putting CDs on and hosting an ayahuasca ceremony, and that's a different thing. And so there really is an integrity and a commitment that is really that I really respect in what he does now that I have experienced it. And like you said, it's mystical. It's hard to explain. It almost is inexplicable in a beautiful way. In that, why would we put words to it? Because it's almost about getting away from our mind and connecting to our hearts. Which is something that I think is so powerful about the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I actually got in this little online debate with this guy on the Terrence McKenna Facebook page, which we're actually live on right now.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, maybe he's actually, the same guy might be listening. But some guy made a post and he had like a bottle of like commercialized ayahuasca. It was like a branded bottle of ayahuasca, and he's putting it in front of Machu Picchu, and he's like, all right, guys, let's go. Like, and he took a picture of this branded ayahuasca like overlooking Machu Picchu, and I'm like, and I wrote, and I'm like, oh, this is like kind of sad to see this happening. And then some guy jumped on, he's like, that's absolutely absurd to think that the only way we can enjoy these medicines is through traditional ceremony. He's like, Alex Gray uses ayahuasca to paint all the time, and blah 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 blah. So what would you say to somebody who thinks that maybe like, oh, it's just a drug, it's just another entheogen psychedelic, and they can use it leisurely? What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say, for one, in my humble opinion, I've only been in the work for a short period of time, and so I, am by no means someone of, stature on the topic, but I would say that is kind of the opposite of what the experience is supposed to be.
Yeah.
In that, I think that is a very Western way of thinking, that you can extract and almost make it a drug and pull it out of the experience, which is the complete opposite. So to compare it to any other entheogen that I'm aware of, and I'm not aware of them all to any means, I don't think you can call it a drug at all. It is even compared to something like psilocybin or something like that. That is also a plant medicine and used in many other ways. But I think that there is something very specific to this ceremony itself, as well as having a shaman guide you through the experience. It's not just about taking ayahuasca, it's about being in the ceremony setting, and the icaros that are considered the surgery themselves, or the songs that really, the chants that are chanted into you. And, again, this is, if you've experienced it, it's easy to talk about. If you're looking at me like I'm crazy, that's okay.
The guy's he's like, what do you mean? That's absurd. Anybody can use it anywhere.
It's the spirit of the plants, and it's the experience of the ayahuasquero or shaman that you really want in that experience to help you guide through a very scary experience. This isn't a pleasant experience. This is, often terrifying experience of having to face this spirit world, and they're known as being a guide from our world to the spirit world. So, I don't want to go by myself, that's for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to ask you, what kind of brought you personally, to this work, and then so emphatically as well to want to do this project, do this documentary? Like, I want to kind of dive into your story a little bit, since you're here in person with us, like, and whatever you're willing to share. What brought you to ayahuasca in the first place, if you want to share that, and then about this documentary, like, what called to you to do it?
So this has been an interesting journey for me on what to share and what not to share, and that's been something that I think has actually helped me with the medicine, is that sharing is often a part of the healing. And so when I came to it at the beginning, I had some work from my childhood that I've gone to therapy. I'd done a lot of normal things that most people do, and I had done my best, and I'd kind of come to a place where I was really looking for something more. And fortunately, through a friend, I was able to come to the community, and it opened me up in a way that I had no idea that it would. And it actually dove into issues that I didn't know I still had to deal with, or how they were actually affecting my life. And the reason the film really came to me as I was connected to the stories of the people who were in it, and I was really connected to sharing a message of healing, and a message that hopefully is it transcends to the point of just allowing people to know that there's someone out there, or there's someone else out there that's suffering, or that they could get help, or it's really helped me see that there's so many barriers in our society that shuts down the communication, and that shuts down the connection, and shuts down the ability to be able to truly heal, because we're stuck in our box or our cubicle and our day-to-day life and our anxiety of the city. And I've actually started realizing that more and more, that actually even being in a city stresses me out way more than I thought it did. And truly the path of healing and the not being afraid of sharing that is something that I think is so powerful, and that I've kind of hidden my whole life and just felt like, oh, well, I think other people need it more, or, there's all these stories that we tell ourselves. And I think that ultimately, I think it's about connection and healing, and those are things that I'm really passionate about.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's important, and just the act of sharing is really cathartic on its own, and it's a powerful thing, because it shows people like, oh, it's okay to open up and to be vulnerable and to express our weaknesses or our faults or whatever's going on for us, right? And but that's such an amazing liberation on some levels as well that can facilitate that healing. I mean, I know personally for me, like I don't know, I've been working with ayahuasca for about 3.5 years, I guess now, and which is very infantile as well. And it just was one of those things. Like I'm a pretty adventurous person. We both are. That's how we got into float tanks, and I don't know, we're always looking for that next thing to experience, really, because it is about, okay, there's things that I know I like and things I know I don't like, and then in between there's all this stuff I don't even know yet. So I'm gonna go and test these things and experience them and try to have that connection. And so ayahuasca came up, and it's really been a game changer, a life changer for me. And I've been using that word lately because I'm gonna have a child in the fall. And I'm like, that's going to be a life changer. And I would put, ayahuasca, I can't say on the same level yet, but it was a life changer for me. I can confidently say that. So.
I agree. And I know sometimes I'm like, I'm afraid to say things like that, but that's honestly the truth for me. And I feel like being a part of this film has also been a life changer for me, which is why I'm so grateful to be a part of it, because it's actually deepened my connection with the community. And I feel so fortunate to be surrounded by not so many people and their stories and people from all walks of life, and to be able to see it be something that's helping so many people is really, really powerful for me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, totally. So you guys, does Dave prominently work down in Costa Rica then? Is that
no, he's not in Costa Rica.
Oh, okay. But when he does his retreats, that's where they are?
Yes, no, that's not where they are.
Oh, okay.
But we're actually not talking about where they do their retreats. It's just something we've kind of agreed that we're not going to talk about.
That's fair. No problem. I mean, that's kind of the state that we are in right now, right? We're in this transition state, and it's going to be like that for a little while longer. But there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of momentum showing that things will be shifting in one way, shape, or form. And so maybe a generalized version of that topic then is, what do you look at in terms of, or how do you look at doing ayahuasca out of the jungle, like out of the Amazon, and bringing it to other parts of the world and stuff like that? What are your thoughts on that kind of element of it? Like, should it be taken away, or should it be kept where it is?
I would like to say that I don't think I'm the best person to answer that question. I do think that it is a very sensitive topic, and is one we will explore in depth in the film.
Cool.
I think that there are two sides to it. I think that there is the one side, which is that there is a bit of a dark side to bringing the plant medicine out of the jungle, and there are people who are misusing it and who are taking the ceremony itself and not really honoring that. And so I think that is also something that we'll talk about. And then I think that there is a part that I see in this community and in so many communities that I'm not a part of that is really is honoring the tradition and is respecting the plant and respecting its usage and being very committed to making sure that it isn't used in a wrong or bad way, for lack of better words. And I think that if I were to see there being a trade, I think the trade is good, because I think the trade-off for seeing the healing that's gone on is worth it, in my opinion. Now, that isn't something that we will explore in the film further, and I think that having someone, for example, like Wade Davis, who we will be interviewing for the film, will be able to talk about that more in depth, about the idea of the cultural aspect of it leaving the jungle. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very complicated issue, and there's probably no right or wrong answer to that, really. I mean, it's very in depth, but it's always cool just to hear your opinion on it and to see where you're coming from. Now, in terms of the other characters in the documentary, these people sharing their healing experiences and stuff like that. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on those people, like what they were bringing to it, and kind of like what they're able to dive into and share?
So, and this is actually part of the story that I didn't really get into in my version of why I came into it. They were really part of the reason why I was really passionate about it. And I mean, I won't go too in depth into each of them, but there's at the moment we have 3 other main characters that are in the campaign, and you can go read about them. There's Lisa, Libby, and Shannon, and these 3 women, all very different in their own stories, but all came to the medicine at last desperation. Basically, it was a last call. Libby is an example. She was, someone that from interior BC, she lived a very normal life, like we do. And, she was at a point where she was facing anorexia and depression and basically having suicidal thoughts. And she was doing everything she thought she could, which was, see a therapist and take these, antidepressant drugs and all the things that we're told to do. And yet it was just making her more unhappy. And so she came to the medicine, and it's literally transformed her life.
Wow.
And it's really turned her from being suicidal to really being able to face life. And she's now married within the 3 years of the filming, and she has a baby girl. And it's not about it all being happy and cheery, but it's really beautiful to see. Todd met her when she was at rock bottom, and so to really be able to share that story of someone coming at like there are no other options to living a happy, full life is, I think, really powerful to see. Another example, and both Lisa and Shannon faced horrendous sexual abuse in their life, and that for me is a topic that I am personally passionate about, and I think that gets put under the rug so easily, and it's really hard for women to talk about it. And so I think that sharing a story about both these women and potentially more is powerful in itself, because it allows other women who are out there who are quiet or who are forced to not say anything, and to allow them to share or to seek help or to heal themselves. And for myself, that's something that I've explored in my work with ayahuasca, and it's been incredibly powerful for me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like that, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and trauma, it can lead to addictions, it can lead to depression, it can lead to suicide, and it's just amazing that for some people who are maybe traditionally treatment resistant, are actually getting really, really promising and effective results. It's not to say that it's a panacea and it can fix and cure anything and everything. It definitely can't. But you know, that's the
and
part.
I should say on that topic, because Lisa was someone who I didn't go into as much, but she's kind of the story around, I mean, there's all addiction in all of it, but, you know, her addiction story is pretty profound in that she was on hard street drugs. And so that's something that we look at as like, oh, well, you know, you can't get off those. Like, she was on street drugs, crack, heroin, that kind of level of drug. And then she was on a methadone, which is what you're kind of set to for life. Right. You know, how do you can't really get off that. You're stuck on it. And so in a last ditch effort, her husband at the time, called Gabor Mate, just saying, we need to do something. We need help. And that is what led her to currently now 7 years. And, you know, she's off methadone, any kind of drugs, alcohol. Like, that's the kind of thing that, especially in the Lower East Side, we look to here and we kind of go, oh no, like, you can't get off those things. Right. Because we see it as the drug being the problem, as opposed to the trauma and the emotional connection as having an effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. I want to switch gears a little bit, and I kind of want to explore, you know, because obviously we want people in our community and whoever is watching this and sharing this and listening to this to, you know, take a look at the campaign. If they feel compelled to support it, to definitely go out and, like, you know, even $5, $10, $20, like, it's really that level of support. Anything you got, if you believe in what this represents, is an amazing thing to contribute, you know. And totally. If that's out of the realm, then just like, comment, or share. Like, that even helps, you know.
Totally. And I say that in the video, and I genuinely mean it. That, like, anything counts, and it's really for us, like, like $10 means a lot, because it's also one more person. You know, it's creating that community. It's like that tribe behind us that goes, yes, we believe in this. Yes, we care. Yes, we want to help these topics get out into the world and this message. And so, yes, anything counts. And I think that, and then also, if you can't share, then, or if you can't contribute, then sharing and sharing the message is a huge help as well. Totally. Again, it's about starting the conversation and really, like, or changing the conversation, or just, like, you know, being able to talk about these topics in a different way. And so.
Totally. Why do you think so many people shy away from these topics? Because it's something that, like, in our circles and our realms that we deal with, and, like, a lot of the people that you know, I interact with. I was talking to Dave Wheel about it today. Dave Wheel, founder of Grind Bar. It's an amazing product, by the way. Definitely try one. But we were talking about how, like, you know, we think we're in this realm of people who are like really into this kind of thing. Like, you get locked in your little bubbles, but then when you kind of get outside of that, it's like, you know, the mainstream population is much, much greater than this one, and they definitely shy away from these topics quite a bit. And I was wondering if you've had any thoughts on to why that is.
Well, I think even in just what you just said, that you have a community. And so it's within that community that there's this encouraging of sharing. And I think that in and of itself, we are removed from. So I think you guys have also, you're good at building, you've built a community around you, which is a really beautiful thing. And I'd like to say that I think we work very hard at that, my husband and myself, just building this community, because it's hard out there in this world. Like,
well, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of criticism.
There's a lot of criticism, and we're also, you know, we've removed ourselves from that tribal connection. You know, we weren't built to live in apartments by ourselves. I truly believe that. Like, I think we were built to live in a community where you knew everyone in the community. Yeah. And you were able to share about things that happened, or there was connecting was encouraged. Yeah. Whereas we're encouraged not to connect. If we were encouraged to connect, we wouldn't be on TV, on the internet, on Facebook, like all these things, these addictions, which I feel like Gabor talks a lot, actually, even on your podcast, about how, you know, the media and the marketing is built in to make us disconnect and to make us go, ooh, well, I better just keep to myself, or I better not share about that. I've got to, like, keep this kind of profile of myself, like on Facebook or whatever. You know, I think and there is a trend of sharing and of being vulnerable. And I do think it's a part of this new trend of going, okay, let's like break through the shit that we've been taught and go like do something different. But it does take a breaking through. And I feel like even what you guys are doing here is a breaking through. It's like, hey, let's talk about these issues. Let's like really not just shy away from it because it's there.
Yeah, totally. I think that, it's really a cultural thing. I think that, like social media, which we're broadcasting live on right now, is serving as a tool. And it's a neutral thing, and it's really how we are using it and integrating into our lives, and is it substituting our connection with humans and our tribe, our community, and I agree. I agree that we need each other to support each other, and we kind of have that in this greater civilization we have, but there's a disconnect on a heart level, on like a spiritual level, I'll say, with these other people, that it's, it needs to develop and grow. And I think I personally believe that is our next step in our evolution. And then the shift that happens to the greater infrastructure that we have will happen naturally based off of the shift that happens within each and every one of us.
Totally. And I think even to go down to the level of like when we're infants, that Gabor was talking about is, we're trained to do this when we're children. We're either trained or we're not trained to share. And so, even by touch and by, being held and being supported and like, you either get that or you don't. And I think in our society, with everything that we're faced with, children often aren't held enough or aren't supported in the way that like are nurtured in the way that you would be if you were in a tribal setting or in a community setting. And so I think that then trains you to not do that in the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like it's in generalizations, I would agree, and I think that the communities that we are involved in are definitely trying to rewrite that kind of stuff based off a lot of research that's happening, based off of our personal experiences. And then interacting and sharing online really has been a huge medium for everyone to kind of be exposed to new ideas, to different ways of looking at the world. And
absolutely.
And what else? I mean, I would not have heard of ayahuasca if it wasn't for the internet. Or actually, I would have heard of it, but I wouldn't have been able to kind of
research it and look it up.
Check
Exactly.
It out,
No, and I mean, not to broadcast as it being a negative thing, because obviously, I mean, I function my life on it also, and the campaign itself is online.
That's right.
And it's a huge way of reaching out to people, and I think it's just a matter of having there be an awareness of our relationship to it.
Totally.
It doesn't need to be a negative thing. It's actually a very positive thing, and I think that the awareness, the level of awareness and connection that we do have does have to do somewhat with the fact that we are connected with the internet. But I think that it's kind of stepping back and looking at our relationship with it.
Yeah. And let's talk about that this is this fun conversation, but like, there's funny where some people will be able to kind of turn, the camera on themselves or face the mirror and like have that awareness and look at themselves and their behaviors. And then some people don't do that. What do you think requires for that first shell to be cracked in terms of like developing that awareness? Like, I don't know. Do you have any personal opinions on that?
I mean, I was raised in the world of acting, and so I had a rough start of having to kind of constantly think about what I would look like in front of the camera or look like in front of a photo or whatever. And so I think that world can be that we're all really faced with right. Us Weekly or all these magazines of like you have to look a certain way and all that kind of thing. And I think that in order to break out of that, I think you've kind of got to break out of the like mainstream media mode and be able to, I think it kind of all comes back to a little bit of connecting with nature and connecting out of that like media world and going like, okay, wait, what's my more natural setting? Or at least that was for me.
Right. Yeah.
And that I've encouraged to by my husband, who's like just like running around bare feet and jumping in the ocean at all
Granola
times.
John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But it's true. I mean, we kind of had to talk about this on the podcast. I'm not sure how long ago, but we were just commenting on, especially when you're in like a city environment, everything you literally see for the most part is mind created. And this is something Eckhart Tolle talked about when I went and saw him speak in Vancouver last year. And he was saying how everything you see is mind created, but when you go and immerse yourself in a real natural environment, nothing in there is mind created, you know? And so it automatically starts to shift you from the mental world, that cerebral world that, you know, I believe a lot of us get chronically stuck in, and then it shifts us out of that, because you look at the trees and the roots and the rocks and the dirt and how everything kind of, you know, there's a system to it, but it's a chaotic system that has an order, and it's just like it completely changes the frequency of the mind, and like,
and
we can't like understand it.
Totally. And there's a matter of respect that's not like, you wouldn't call it respect because they just, you know, plants or animals do it innately, is that there is like a taking care of. And I think that's another thing, is there being that would break you out, me out personally, was a taking care of my body, and really wanting to respect it, as opposed to looking at it as like, oh, well, you got to have like, you know, you got to be a certain weight, or you got to look a certain way. And then it's like, wait, actually, I think the truest way to honor your body and honor the planet as being a part of the planet is like being your natural state, which isn't necessarily looking a certain way or, you know, molding yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's I believe that comes down to how you feel.
How you feel and what you put in your body, as opposed to it being like, oh, well, I need to put this into my body to look a certain way. It's like, no, how about, you know, really creating like a happy gut, as everyone's talking about, you know, and you know, a happy, that then being a happier brain, and, you know, a good place to,
happy bowel movements.
Yeah. Happy bowel movements. Super important.
I mean, if you got good bowel movements, you're having a good day.
Sad. Totally.
Right? I mean, tell me if you're lying. I mean, come on.
No.
It's true.
Definitely true.
Yeah. That's why I'm on the smoothie train again.
You just lost like 8 viewers there.
No.
Oh, I went to the toilet.
Come on, who doesn't like poo jokes?
I'm watching our viewer counts, like going up and going down, and it just drops. I'm like, oh man.
Okay, well, whoever's with us still, you guys are awesome. You get me. Respect. Well, okay, so you got this campaign going. You're halfway through. You're halfway to your goal, pretty much. You know, let's use the power of intention and visualization, and now you've reached that goal. It's going to get funded. Finish the production. Where do you see this going? Where would you love to see this go? Let's put it out there.
Heck yeah.
Netflix?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big platform, right?
That's a huge platform. That was definitely when Todd and I met that. So I was like, we're getting us on Netflix.
Awesome. Yeah. Netflix, CNN, who knows? Yeah. Like, but yeah, I mean,
I think there's, you know, the thing I like about Netflix or these online platforms is that they reach a lot of people. And that's ultimately what it's about. It is about getting the message out there and reaching people. And I think that Netflix does do that. You know, if we get to do a festival circuit and, you know, get a theatrical release, I'd be stoked on that, so I'll just put that out there.
Why not?
But that doesn't mean that it can't eventually go to Netflix or one of those platforms after. And I think that, that's, you know, we're just going to keep charging forward.
Very cool. No, I agree. And you might as well, you know, I mean, and I think Netflix especially, they're open to these more controversial things. Like they really kind of like dominate that whole world a little bit. And I know there's one documentary called The Culture High that was on there for a while. Unfortunately, it's not on there anymore, which is too bad. But, you know, that's a very it could be a very politically polarizing kind of film just because of the nature of its topic and stuff like that. So, you know, you never know.
Well,
right?
No, it's cool. And I think that Netflix has really changed the platform for documentaries. You know, they really, you know, not a lot of people watched as many documentaries as they do now. Right. And especially like Vine of the Soul that was on or is still on Netflix is, you know, that opened a lot of people up to even the topic. Yeah. And so it's, you know, just about a conversation and about helping people, you know, understand a topic and awareness.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so, you know, you never know where it could go. So that's awesome. I'd love to see that happen. And so that's, you know, that's part of this call to action, people. If you can support, that'd be really huge. And
Thank you.
Where do you see, you know, let's say that success happens. Do you see yourself doing more work supporting kind of, you know, the ayahuasca propagation and just its like, do you have more connection? Do you believe there's more work here for yourself in this realm of shamanism and ayahuasca drinking. Sorry, put that brutally, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think I see myself in terms of this project as it's helped me realize how much I love documentary. This is my first documentary,
cool.
and I definitely see myself working on documentary more.
Yeah.
And so that in itself, whether I don't think the next one would be about ayahuasca, I think that this is really covering it in a way that I feel so does in a really beautiful way. And I think that if anything, it would be following more of a documentary path. And I also see I've always done philanthropic work, and really I think I've now found a stronger target in what I'd like to work on. And so I think that opening a foundation at one point is something that is a goal of mine. And so, when that happens, but that will definitely be a path as well.
Have you always been like this? Have you always been kind of really, actively supporting, like, kind of charity oriented or like supporting? Have you always been like that, or is that something that's shifted in you?
It really always has been. I mean, I started doing like 10K fundraiser runs for leukemia when I was younger because my cousin had passed away, and I always kind of felt a calling for doing charitable work. And actually, one of my first projects when I moved back to Vancouver from New York was an event called Seeing Eye to Eye, and it was like to help raise awareness for a company called Operation Eyesight. And I did like a one-act play, and I got a few bands together and did an art gallery, and so that kind of thing that I was like 19 at that point. Like it was just it's always been something that I really care about, and I feel like I just want to take it to the next level by doing something that maybe would be even more impactful.
Excellent. Cool. Awesome. No, I mean, well, how are we doing for time there? What are we at?
Oh, we're almost an hour in.
Are we? Okay, cool. Because I just want to get into if there's anything that you feel we haven't got into on this film that you were, wanting us to share, any topic or anything like that you need to get out there to people.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
think we really did.
So they have the Path of the Shaman is on Facebook. That's the group page.
Yes.
And the Indiegogo campaign is linked there. If you're not on Facebook, how can they get to this?
It's on the Indiegogo website.
Okay.
And we are, it's the Path of the Shaman documentary.
Okay. And we'll have a link also in the audio on iTunes or on Stitcher. You can go check it out there. So it's there for you as well. Cool. Well, I mean, I hope this was supportive. I hope our community can jump on board and in one way, shape, or form and support your project. And, I wish you tremendous success for the second half and best of luck to it all. And I'm looking forward to seeing it when it's done. Well,
thank you so much. And I'm really so grateful to you both for bringing me on. And I'm really just grateful to be a part of this project. And I feel really grateful to the people, to Dave, to Gabor Mate, to Lisa, Libby, and Shannon, to the many others in the film that for sharing their story. And I'm really grateful to be a part of it. So awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Nice job. And is there anything we want to wrap up with community-wise?
Oh, just just join up, link up with us on the Vancouver Real community as usual. And if you like what you hear today, give us a like, a share, a review, a rating, all that good stuff on iTunes, YouTube, or Stitcher. It's really helpful to help the podcast gets found in the sea of podcasts these days. Something like over 1 million plus podcasts out there now. So, any kind of support, you can support in lots of different ways. Like I said, like just writing a comment or sharing or tagging a friend. All those things actually go a really long way. So we appreciate all the support that we get. And big thanks to everyone who's been listening. I think this is going to be number 110 that we're releasing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure. I mean, it'd be interesting to find out, like, how many people have been with us, like, since day one.
I know there's a few out there that have been listening.
Totally.
So to whoever that you are, like, you're listening right now, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I hope we've been, growing and evolving in your eyes, and that, you're obviously here for a reason. So thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting with you whether it's online or in person sometimes. So please
Yeah.
don't be shy. Reach out. We'd love to.
Oh, and a
we'd
couple
love to
other things
connect.
too. We have the mindful mass meditation.
Yes, this is so cool.
Yeah, so we basically started up a meditation group, and we go to public areas around the city. We do get permits before we go, so we don't get in trouble like the yoga people in Dude Chilling Park. But we do get permits, and we actually have like mass meditations. And we've had 2 so far. We did the first one at the Woodward's Atrium, and the second one was at the Vancouver Art Gallery. And the third one's going to be on June 20th, and it's at Stanley Park at the Picnic Pavilion, starting at 7 p.m., which is the summer solstice. So that'll be really fun.
Awesome.
So come out to that. There's also a big Facebook group called Mindful Mass Meditation Mob Vancouver or something like that. Just look at Mindful Mass. You'll find it. And yeah, come out to the events. They're really fun. It's just, if you've ever experienced a group meditation, there's something very different about it. There's the collective energy. Like I was sitting up there at the first one with Carolyn, and it was just such a trip after the meditation just to open my eyes and see like 150 people staring back at me after they had just finished meditating. I was just like, whoa, like it was really moving.
And I love how we're bringing it, this movement, this mindfulness movement, this presence in meditation is going to the public, locations as a group and just showing up and meditating for we go 20 minutes or so, and then just kind of like, having a bunch of hugs and connecting and then dispersing. It's really cool. So
That's awesome.
Definitely check it out, people, Mindful Mass, and we'd love to have your community get involved with that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
tell
really
everyone
cool.
About it.
Yeah, cool. And of course, too, if you want to try a float out, you can use the promo code Vancouver Real, and that will get you a 20% discount on a single float. So definitely come and get some relaxation and meditation in our float tanks.
Absolutely.
Floathouse.ca is the website.
Powerful.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll connect soon. Until next time.
To whatever is.
To whatever is.